Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Face the Truth. My guest this week needs no introduction, but he's going to get one anyways. This guy is so prolific with so many different mediums that it's boring, okay? It's too much. He can do everything. He can do plein air painting, he can do character design, children's books, caricature, fine art, blah, 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 blah. Wouter, Tulp, he can do everything. So I don't know. Anyways, okay. No, the guy is awesome. He's also an instructor at Schoolism. We just did Lightbox. It was such an awesome time, and Wouter was everywhere. He was all over the place. Had a lot of cool demos. We'll talk about the things he did, and I'm looking forward to talking to him. He's an awesome guy. He's an amazing artist. He's inspirational. He's a good teacher. He's a good dad. The whole shebang. So everyone, please welcome Wouter Tulp.
Wow, thank you. That is a beautiful introduction, and thank you for having me. Because I think since last time we spoke, you've had some really amazing guests. So I'm really honored to be invited back here.
Yeah, but none of them can do all the things you do.
That is, it's for me. It doesn't feel like it's so different. When you do a watercolor of a shark, does it feel like you're doing something completely different than when you're doing a caricature of Obama? No. Of course it's a different thing, but you use the same principles, and one time you choose this medium, one time you choose to be more funny, one time you choose to be more realistic. But for me, I'm just curious. I like to explore a lot of things, but it doesn't. I know for a fact I can't do everything. The more I do, the more I learn that I don't know that much at all.
No, I'm just having fun with you. I feel. For me, I feel very similar in the ways where I do all kinds of. I dabble in plein air. I dabble in all these things too. But you're just, I just love everything that you do. So I'm like, there's so many different styles and different things that you do, and you do it so well. And one of the things that came up a couple times, because we did a couple different chats for Lightbox, by the last one we did, the caricature one. That was so much fun. It was so much fun, but I was so tired. It was like a late night with the kids and everything, and then I got up super early. I had a Schoolism 1 a.m, and then I had the deadline, and so by the time that came around, I was just like, I'm so tired. But it really was fun, and it was like really cool. There's so many awesome artists drawing together. But one of the things that came up though a few times with you is that I didn't know this before, was like Bobby had brought up a couple times that you've done over 100 children's books.
Well,
I don't know. Is that number?
It's not that I created 100 children's books, but if you would count all the books that have an illustration of me in it.
Oh, okay.
I think you would get, but I didn't feel entirely comfortable with that, because you can get the idea that I created 100 children's books under my own name. That's not entirely what it is.
That's what I was wondering, because I remember we talked about it a little bit, and you said it's mostly in the Netherlands and Europe and so on. But you said I'm done with I've done so many, but have you? What I was curious about is, have you approached U.S. publications with? Or are you just not really interested in doing it? Because
at the time I did, but I think what I was struggling with was a lot of insecurity at the time. So, and I enjoyed the part where I could come up with the ideas, the concepts, the storyboards. But when it came to doing the final illustrations, I was so nervous of actually picking a style. It didn't feel for me like this is how I draw, or I didn't feel like I had my own voice, and I had to pick a style and I felt like everyone was watching, and I never thought it was good enough. So it was mostly me getting in the way of myself, which made it such a hard process. And then I went to do character design for movies, which is basically just the concept part. You don't really finish the illustration. And at the time, that was a good transition for me. I think at the moment I'm much more confident and much more ready, if I would want to do it, to do it in my own way. But with the books I did, I always felt like I was trying to prove so much what I could do, and it was never good enough. So it was really me getting in the way of myself.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I think that can be easy, when especially like something like children's books. You could, I'm for example, I've always wanted to do a children's book, and I've dabbled with. I've written a couple ideas before, and I've dabbled with how I would approach it, and every single time I would almost kind of come up with a different style for it than what people would know me for. And I think with children's books, you can kind of, like, a certain story might call for a certain feel or mood, and that could be completely different. Where maybe, like, one of the ideas I had with, like, the drawings were going to be very almost simple line art with just very simple color. It wasn't going to be too complicated. And it was, I got 2 little babies now, so I was like thinking about like something that little babies would like. So it's not typically, it wouldn't be typically what I would do for like an illustration or whatever. So I think that that children's books can lend to that. You could kind of do hundreds of styles, really. But I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and that is the fun thing of it. But I think I started doing children's books right when I got out of school, not because I always wanted to do children's books, but because that was just the first thing that I could make money with. And so you do editorial illustrations, and the way that works is you get hired to do this illustration, and they pay you. And for children's books, it feels to me much more like this is a passion project, a story that you feel like you want to tell. And at the beginning, I approached it more like work for hire, and that's why I think I was so nervous about picking a style, because I was looking for what my client wanted from me, and I didn't realize at the time that it wasn't about that. It was about me telling a story my way, and I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, too, like when you're right out of school, or when you're just getting started and trying to get noticed or get work, you'll pretty much take whatever comes your way,
Yeah.
And then if you're not careful, you can get pigeonholed into that, and it's like, oh, I'm the storybook guy now. But yeah, I find the same thing with the illustration. Like, for years, I only could get caricature type work, and there was a lot of publications that I wanted to work for, but they wouldn't even look at me. They weren't even interested. And then I had to kind of force portrait style illustration. Like, I had to come up with almost a whole new portfolio.
Oh, they didn't want to look at your work because it was caricature and you wanted to do other things. Okay.
I was known for like the first time I went to Rolling Stone, the art director told me that he was a huge fan and he loves my work, but they already have Philip Burke and Victor Huaz, and that's who they use for caricature type stuff, Mark Summers, and my style is completely different. And I was like, oh, well, first of all, I was thinking, you can have a different style in there. You can have something different, my style is style. Yeah, my style is very different from theirs, but maybe that would be cool.
Yeah.
And give me an opportunity to like take it to some other place or whatever. But then they're like, what, if you could draw like realistic type portraits, then maybe we could, because if you could paint the way you do with character. And I'm like thinking, well, of course I can do that, and then I remember I had an iPad with me that I just got, and I just put a bunch of my work on it. So I flipped to some portrait type stuff, and they were like, oh man, this is awesome. But it probably takes you weeks and weeks, and our deadlines are crazy. And I said, no, this is like just a few days, which I wish I wouldn't have said that, because then like I got a job for them right away, which was great, but I got like a day and a half or 2 days to do it.
Yeah.
And that's how it's always been.
Mm.
So, but you have to, it's interesting. I've heard this, I'm sure you've heard this before too, but I feel like sometimes in the industry, it's like you can have a very diverse portfolio that shows just all the different things that you can do, or you can have one thing that, you know, and I've heard it's good to do both of them. People have told me both, and I've heard different things from art directors, but I feel like a lot of times in the industry, there's art directors that'll be like, man, that's you're the best artist I've ever seen at painting apples, but can you paint an orange, you know?
Yeah.
And it's, of course I can paint an orange.
That's the thing. And it's interesting that you bring it up. You know, what you said about people didn't want to hire you because you were known for a certain style. So that says to me that, you know, people, at least in a certain part of the industry, people are looking at illustrators that way. You know, if we want that, we ask Jason Seiler. But at the same time, you know, you want, as an artist, you want to develop and explore and try new things. And I don't really have the answer. I only know what works for me, and I've never been able to pick a style and just do only this. And it has always been like that. And for example, there was a time where I just had different portfolios, where I had a children's books portfolio, a caricature portfolio, and editorial illustrations. And you know, my clients wouldn't know that I had these other portfolios, so they would think I was just a children's book illustrator. Because I think in terms of marketing, it works. It can help to sell yourself. You know, when I started to let people know I'm a character designer and get rid of all the other stuff from my website, that's when things started to change, because it was clear to the studios, oh, this is what this guy is doing. It didn't mean that I could no longer go outdoors and paint.
I was going to ask you about that, because I noticed I was on your website looking for images to let people know that I was going to have you on, and it was just the character design. And I was thinking, I think I know what he's doing here. But it's weird because, you know, I've known you for a long time, of your art and everything. And the first thing I was familiar with was your caricature work. And I feel sort of like a caricature snob, or I should say, not just caricature, but like a specific style that I'm attracted to. I've talked with some artists about this recently, about how you know, like I in my interview with Kevin Nealon recently, I was saying some things about caricature, but Kevin understood, but other people were confused. But it was from my perspective on caricature. It wasn't saying this is what caricature is or this is how it has to be, but from my perspective, what my goals are and what I'm attracted to, I'm a snob. Like there's only a certain amount of artists out there that I like, as far as inspires me, or that I'm like, okay, that's some stuff right there. That's the good shit. And that's just for me. And your stuff was some of that early on when I took notice when I saw, I think, your Beatles piece where you had all the four heads put together. I think you had like a really cool Marilyn Monroe. There's a few pieces, and so way back in the day, I would just save every image like that and create folders that I would just look at every once in a while and just like learn things from every single artist that I saw. And so when I first saw your stuff, you were just the caricature guy. Like I had no idea that you did all this other stuff as well. And I remember, you know, starting to see, I think on your blog, I remember once you posted, I think it was like this really beautiful, like acrylic painting. I think you did of your wife, and I think you did one of, it might have been yourself and your wife, but and it was just so awesome to see. I'm like, oh wow, okay, this he does more than that, you know. So I think though that it's a smart idea what you're doing now with the character design thing, because that's what your main focus is. You want right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and that's, a studio making an animated feature is not interested in my landscapes, or at least it confuses them if that's in my portfolio, if I want to do character design for them. So I just want to be clear in how I present myself.
It's very good. It's very smart.
At the same time, I think that there's a lot of students who are looking so hard to have their own style. And I'm always attracted to artists like Miles Davis or David Bowie or Björk, and it's not even that all of these artists I'm a fan of, but their way of dealing with their art, you can't say David Bowie, oh, that's this kind of music. Every 5 years he had a different style, or he changed and he evolved, and same with Miles Davis, but at the same time, if you hear that trumpet, it's Miles Davis. And I think it's the same with art. I can decide to do a realistic portrait, but it will still be me and my sensitivity and my what I want to express. It's my personality coming through, and that is not something that happens when you are an accomplished artist. When you're a student, you have your personal interest, and even the way you learned as a child to hold a pencil, that doesn't change much, and the way you put pressure on that pencil, those are things that are personal. And also exactly what you mentioned, those caricatures that you like, that doesn't say that other caricatures are wrong or anything, but I have the same thing. There's some artists, I actually recently created those folders again, if it comes to painting, what are the painters that I like, and then with everyone I know, well, from this artist, I like the way he uses color, but for this artist, I like the way he uses distortion. And it's never this one artist that has it all, because I want to be me, but those artists inspire me in a certain way. And I think that's healthy to have that as an artist, because it says something about where you want to go as an artist. And these people, they do something that inspires you.
Yeah, for sure. I have, like, my thing is brushwork. Like, there's artists out there that I'm like, okay, the brush, I love Nicholas Uribe. I love his work. Yeah. And he posts like an oil painting every day, I think.
I know.
And every time I see it, I'm like, oh man, it's like it makes me just want to stop everything I'm doing and just paint. So there's artists like that I like. I don't really keep folders anymore, but Instagram is just so, I could get lost on
Instagram is doing it for you.
Yeah, I can get lost. Like, I'll be introduced to a new artist and just get lost forever on that thing. But it's because, I think it doesn't matter how successful we are as artists, or how, how well we've been doing or how long we've been doing it. I think it really matters how well we're able to continue to be students for ourselves, being open to accept things and learn and grow, because that's the only way you're going to get better. And like, for me, it's like, I haven't gotten to do very much caricature illustration stuff lately, but it's because it's been so slow in that industry, and a lot of people seem to be afraid of using caricature.
Okay, yeah.
But because I love it so much and I'm doing it on my own, I tell myself, and I give myself like goals, like I'm going to continue to do these portrait type work or illustrations that I get. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to keep trying to push myself in that direction. But I love doing this caricature stuff, and I want to be the top of my game in it. I want to, for myself personally, I want to continue to do stuff, push myself. And so the next time I get one, I'm going to take it levels above the other stuff I did. But then of course, when it happens, you get like the oh, we need it tomorrow, and you're like, God damn it, So, but it's to me, it's just part of I guess the nature of the beast, as they say.
And still, it's the skill set that you've been developing that will help you to be able to do it in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, I actually enjoy that a little bit because, like for example, a piece I'm doing now, it's forcing me to be more painterly, which I actually kind of like, and I've been trying to get more into that. Like, it's just more exciting for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To leave some brush work there, and I like when you see some sketch marks coming through and stuff like that. It's I used to be the opposite, where everything had to be so hyper real, and it can be impressive if you're just impressed with rendering, but I think there's so much more excitement that can be found in like something more gestural.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Nicholas Uribe. He uses just 3 brushstrokes and it's all there. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Well, it's kind of like your background painting right now. I think my wife and kids are back right now. Can hear little baby crying. Is that your background? That's a painting of yours?
Yes.
Yes. So like it's really nice, and I can see though that kind of brushwork that I like. It's very I don't know if the right word is sculpture-ish, but like very I don't. That's kind of the way I think of it when I paint, like almost like adding on the form with just brush stroke buildup, But it's very nice.
Oh, thanks. It's actually it's funny because when you look at it, someone said it's Fata Morgana. Does that translate?
I'm not sure.
What you see when you're in the desert and you see a castle that isn't really there.
Mirage.
Like a mirage. Okay. Yeah. And so, and it's funny because I also had people say, "Wow, it looks just like a photograph." And usually, when as a painter, someone says that, you feel like, I don't want it to look like a photograph. But in this case, I thought it was a compliment because as you can see, I literally did things that are impossible. I painted trees in the sky, and still people feel it's like a photograph. And I thought, well, that's exactly where I wanted to go with this, where I wanted to just put elements in the painting that give you a certain association with the landscape, but it is not literally the landscape. And that's basically what painting is, because it's never reality. It's pigment on a canvas, and you interpret it a certain way. And I just wanted to push that and to play with that. And I thought it was so funny where I so clearly did things that would not happen in a photograph, and still people look at it and say, "Wow, it's just like a photograph." I thought it was really funny.
That's really interesting. That's funny. I've thought about that before, where there's times where I'm sure you've seen this before but like if you like kind of open and close one eye when you're looking at something, you'll see something completely different with one eye versus the other. Like when like one eye might have more cooler lighting and one warmer, or some things will overlap strange if you turn your head a certain way. And it's just funny that you did that, because I thought that might be an interesting painting if you can kind of do that kind of view. But that's really cool. So I know that you've been very busy developing you have some new courses for Schoolism. You did the warm-up course that's actually, let's talk about that if you don't mind, because I saw you did a couple things for Schoolism or for Lightbox promoting it, but I'm actually trying to do something as well, a warm-up thing. So what do you think's the like what kind of format are you doing, like for students to warm up and get? I mean, it's like 30 days, right, that you're doing?
It's 9 weeks.
It's 9 weeks.
So it's 63 days.
Okay.
So it's an artist workout. So you could do this as a daily routine, but I also see it as a course, really. But unlike the other schoolism courses here, it's not like you listen to a lecture and then you get the homework and you do the assignment. But here you just tune in every day for 30 minutes, and while I do the painting, you paint along with me. And I set it up so that each week has a different subject. So one week we will do value studies, and then next week we'll do color studies, and so every week has a different subject. And while I paint, I talk you through it, and you can use the reference I use, or you can use your own reference and do the exercise yourself. You could do the course again using your own reference. Yeah. And so it's really nice, because also for myself, when I finished it, I did 63 paintings, and I still think the best way to learn is, to actually do, to actually paint, and not to. You can learn a lot by reading about it or listening to people talking about it, but the best way still is to paint. And I think this is a great way. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from people who really like the result they got from it, because they really, it really helped them painting alongside my painting. So it's really nice.
That's really cool. And it's a half an hour every day that you.
Yes.
That's really cool. Yeah, I saw a little bit of something that you previewed for Lightbox, and it was really cool to watch. Yeah, and I was curious because Bobby had mentioned me doing something like that, so I've been trying to think about like my approach, what I would do, and that sort of a thing. But that's an awesome way for people to just to experiment a little bit as well.
Yeah, that's also the thing, because it's just an exercise. You don't have to worry about it having to become a great painting. It's just trying to learn, how to compress your values to a darker value, how to compress your values to a lighter value, things like that, how to separate foreground and background by pushing values, all those kinds of exercises that you can use in your paintings later on if you understand how it works.
So the class that you're talking about now is it the new one, the digital painting class?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
cool.
I call it digital painting workout because I do the paintings in Photoshop, but it's not a Photoshop course, because I actually I don't use much of the tools of Photoshop. I paint almost as I would painting traditionally, so I don't have a lot of Photoshop tricks or cool brushes or anything. So you could also do the course using gouache or oil paint. I don't think watercolor, since it's such a different type of medium.
Yeah, that's definitely a different. It's interesting about watercolor. I always hear this from people. They say it's the hardest medium, but I always find it so easy.
Okay.
Like I always.
We should do a watercolor course then. I'd like to learn.
Well, it's just funny to me because that's just. I mean, I thought maybe that you would think the same thing, but to me, watercolor was basically one of my first mediums, and it was like, still one of my favorite things to do. And unfortunately I don't get to do it as much. I don't really get to do my own art as much as I would like to, but I always loved watercolor because. The most important thing for me was establishing like a strong foundation. Make sure that you got your idea, because I mean you can just start freehanding if you want to, but I usually would always prep and do like a nice drawing and then lightly transfer it so it's just right. And then for me it's just a patience game, and I work very, very thin and just build up. And are you familiar with Herman Mejia?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I loved his work so much from Mad Magazine.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, and I learned really how to paint just from looking at his paintings. Like, I'm not even talking about caricature. I'm talking about just painting. Like, I would look at his work and I could just see the way that he would lay down layers and let them dry. And it builds character within the painting. And then like some people would, when they paint, they just render all that away and they make it all soft.
Yeah. Yeah,
he
I
has
love
like this.
seeing that among all the digital paintings, there were these actual watercolors. Really, really cool.
Yeah, and he's
But
got
I
like
think
this
a
like
lot of people.
nice.
Sorry,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say he's got this nice like transparent buildup of structure where he's getting this nice three-dimensional feel with something, but it's all with these transparent layers of color. But it comes across just beautiful, letting the watercolor just do what watercolor is supposed to do.
Yeah,
You know, and that's the thing is I learned a lot from just looking at those, and I started just trying to mimic that and figure out how does he do that. And we became friends, and I would ask him what kind of paper he was using and stuff. And so that's really what, once I started getting into that stuff, this is like, gosh, 16 years ago or so when I started doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. I just found watercolor to be so cool. Like you could just, as long as you have patience, you know.
And I think you have a point where you know, everybody knows watercolors is such a hard medium, and I think if that's how you start using it, you will, you know, of course, especially when you start out, everything is hard, but if your idea about it is already, you know, this is so hard to learn, then you will be how do you say this? Well, you will experience that it is hard, because every time it doesn't work, you'll say, well, you see, this is a difficult medium, and I think it's refreshing when you say, no, it's easy. You know, if you would start out and say, well, this is easy, you will just play and experiment, and that might be a mindset that also helps, because I think there are so many ways you can work with watercolor. Like you say, you can build up, and you know, that is more a way where you construct, but you can also use it in a very painterly, impressionist way, and I think that is much harder. And for example, the watercolors of David Laffini, those are one of my favorites, and I saw some of them in person, and you know, I thought, you know, he absolutely mastered the medium, but I thought he did it instantaneously. But you know, when I saw them in real life, you could see he tore the paper and you know, attached new parts, and it was awesome. Like he fought with the material to get where he wanted.
You know, it's it's so funny because can't remember if I've talked with you about this. I know I've talked about this before, but because I'm self-taught for the most part, I have found that my learning of just the masters or just any of mediums, it comes in a kind of it comes in weird ways. It comes in weird order of things. Like, for example, Sargent. Everybody knows Sargent as this most brilliant portrait painter, oil painter, but that's not how I knew him, you know. And I remember being embarrassed because I did go to art school for about 2 years, and when I was already working professionally when I went, so I was kind of just trying to like hone some of my skills, and I remember being so embarrassed in one of my painting classes because they asked me, like, they're asking the students, like, what is your favorite watercolor artist? And I said Sargent. And my teacher was like, Sargent? What are you talking about? And I was like, no, I'm telling you, he's like one of the best watercolor artists I've ever seen. And that's how I thought of when, like, he was like that was what I wanted. Yeah, and the thing that blew me away about Sargent's watercolor was like, first of all, my dad bought me this book. And so, because he knew how much I loved watercolor. I mean, I was like kind of obsessed with watercolor for a while. So my dad got me this book, and when I saw that book, it just blew me away. And I just loved how you could kind of squint your eyes at some of his paintings. Like, there's one I'm thinking of right now. It's like a Florida scene, and there's like an alligator, and just the lighting and everything. And if you squint your eyes, you feel like you're there. Like the lighting and everything was just spot on. Yeah. It's incredible what he was able to do with watercolor. Yeah. So I was super inspired by that, and my teacher was like so confused. And then they had to show me, like, no, he's known for his oil painting, and it was so weird because then when I started seeing his oil paintings, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I just felt so like dumb and like, oh my, dude, like it was just kind of funny, like in art school to have it all backwards like that, you know. And like in the same thing, like Rockwell was also my favorite artist, and in art school they looked down at him, you know. So I started feeling like, man, I'm like confused about what's good, you know, like you know.
Well, they look down on a lot of things where I went to art school, and just so you know, I think there was only one teacher who actually knew who Sargent was.
Yeah, that's
so
funny.
That says a lot about
I
art
remember
school.
just feeling so silly about that. Like, I actually he's not here anymore, but there was a Sargent show in Chicago back before the apocalypse started, and it was amazing though because they had like just this amazing collection of oil paintings. Just some of them that just blew me away just as far as the brush work. It was just so cool to see them up close. To see how little, you know, my impression of him was he was just a show off, because like some of the brush work was just like 4 or 5 brush strokes and it was a hand and it was just unreal. But then when I got around to the other end of the thing, there was about 20 to 30 or more of his watercolors. And so when I finally got to see those in person, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a different game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Ugh.
It is. Yeah, I went to a show in London a couple of years ago where they had the watercolors, and they really blew me away. It's really amazing. Yeah, and it's funny because you at the same time you can see the paint and the reality that he depicts. It's like you can almost dive in while you can still see that it's just one brush stroke. It's insane.
And he was doing it from life, you know. That's the thing. It's like, you know, for me being an illustrator, I have painted from life, and I think painting from life is probably the most important thing that you can do to become a better artist. You learn so much from it. But like the reality is, I'm mostly in my studio working on stuff. But when I see something like that, you're like, dude, he was there. Like, that alligator he painted. Yeah, there was an alligator there, and he was painting. It's pretty crazy, man. Gosh. Yeah, that's nuts, man. So what kind of influence? Like, what are some of your influences, artist-wise, that really get you like wanting to paint?
Oh, I already mentioned David Laffini. My dad had a book, and I've known that already from when I was a really young child, and that had such an impact on me. Both the caricatures, but even more the watercolors. Yeah, that has stayed with me ever since, and still, you know, it has this nice balance of reality, and you know, it has distortion or caricaturization, but it's not to make it look funny. It's to express something about these personalities or to create a certain atmosphere. And I have always loved that, you know, the fact that you can play with reality instead of literally copying it. Also, like this painting right here, you know, I didn't want to just paint a landscape using like a formula for painting landscapes. I want to try and create my own vision of it, or my, you know, trying to say something that comes from me personally. And that's something I saw in his paintings a lot. And then also there is Sargent, of course. He is such a master when it comes to value painting. You know, it's almost like, you know, if they didn't, if photography wasn't invented, this was the closest thing. You know, some of his paintings are even more real than any photo could ever capture. So yeah, that's really, really amazing.
I mean, I wish I could. I don't remember the name of the artist. There's it was like at the tip of my tongue, but there. So Chicago has a really nice art museum, but Milwaukee is like maybe an hour and a half from here, and they have a it's not that big of an art. It's a pretty small art museum. But my wife and I love going there because Milwaukee's a cute little town, and they have like really cool restaurants, and it's kind of nice to just get out of the city a little bit and go to another city. But but they have this really cool art museum because it's almost feels untouchable or not untouchable. It's like there's just work there that you're not expecting it to be there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like they have like this really interesting German section of these painters that it drives me. That's just one guy. It starts with an H, I think, but his last name. But there's these little paintings that came around this corner, and every time I'm there, I just have to just stare at these paintings. But they're maybe 12 to 16 inches. I don't know exactly. They're not huge paintings. And there's this one in particular. It's like all these, like I guess they look like friars, like kind of like the old like the big gowns and almost like monks in a way, but they're in like this like winery type scene with all these big wine barrels, and one guy's like on the floor laughing, and there's like a basket of like vegetables and stuff that's spilled over, and there's a wine, and there's all this, but it's like all these characters, and it's almost like a Rockwell type feeling.
Okay, cool.
But it's painted so realistic that, and it's unreal because you get close and you can see like the hands are like only this big, but they're so photorealistic, and the whole thing is just so amazing. And then you look at the year it was painted, and it was like I think it was like early 1800s or something. Like I can't remember the exact date, but it's like it was before. I think it was before photography. I can't remember the exact year. I wish I knew more information on it, but it's just mind blowing when you see paintings like that, and you're like, how in the world did they achieve that at that time? Because it looks like a full on scene that someone took a photo of, but it's all in oil painting, and it's just the lighting and everything.
That's so cool.
I have to try to look that up. I know I have photos somewhere, but I even get I
remember seeing a painting of a painter called Krumskoy. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a Russian painter. I saw it in Moscow, and same thing. It was a scene where a woman sits beside a lake, but it's in the middle of the night. You see the moonlight shining on her, and it's actually what moonlight looks like, and you just know it's impossible. He could never have painted it right there because he wouldn't be able to see the colors of his, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, how did they do that? That's so crazy, man. It's so weird. I remember when I was a kid, my dad's a painter, and he'd kind of drag me along to art museums, and I would be so bored the whole time. I just didn't. It was so boring. I remember like even feeling like my stomach was hurting, just like this is killing me. The smell of the art museum, everything was just like, get me out of here. But my dad would stand there in front of paintings forever. And I remember one time we were standing in front of it was like a painting. It looked like it was like I want to say it was John the Baptist, his head like on a platter or something like that. I don't know who painted it. But I remember my dad just standing there, and I could be wrong, but I think he was crying because he was so he couldn't believe the painting. And I remember like years later, like saying something to my dad, like, "Remember that time you cried?" He's like, "Well, let me explain something to you." He's like trying to explain. He's like, these people made their paint, they made their brushes, they had to paint in candlelight. He was like going on and on. And it was just funny because I never really thought about that kind of stuff until, and then like now, as you in 2020, we can order Amazon, we can order brushes, and everything just shows up, and you just start painting, and it's like, and then we complain because we have to wear a mask when we go outside. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy because it's unreal. Like now, it's almost like when I go to museums, I feel like I'm visiting like a haunted house in a way. Like it's like these artists stood right where I'm standing in front of this piece.
I know,
you know, and it's so now it's more like, I feel like I can feel it a little bit, you know. There's nothing like seeing the painting up right in person. It's the coolest thing.
It is, yeah. And I don't know if we ever. Well, the times have changed so much, you know. I was thinking, like, would another sergeant ever stand up and you know, someone with a similar amount of talent, but it would be different because the times have changed so much, and I think in these days it's much harder to get to such a point of focus because, you know, everyone is distracted all the time with their telephones, and it's so hard to devote your life to something like Sargent did, I think.
Yeah. Even he has a crazy story. Didn't he get like, I think if I'm remembering correctly, during the war he got stranded somewhere in Europe where he couldn't leave because the war. And I remember, I think it was at the show, and he's basically like, so I just painted. Like he had like,
he did, yeah.
And I think all he had was watercolors at that time, so he just spent his days painting, and he couldn't go, he couldn't leave, and it's a completely different time. I think what do you think of Jeremy Lipkin's work?
He's amazing. I did a workshop with him at some point.
Oh, okay.
And it was really well, you know, he is such an amazing painter, and I was so surprised when he did a demo. And, you know, I always learned that, you know, you have to set up your painting and work on the entire painting all the time, and so you can adjust and look at the balance of the entire painting. And what he did, he started with the pupil of an eye, and with a brush that had just one hair, and he started to paint, and before that, actually, he was staring at the model for half an hour.
Excuse me.
Sitting at a blank canvas, doing nothing, just looking at the model, and we were with a group of students standing there, and we were waiting for him to start painting. And after 30 minutes, he did this. He just put this tiny mark on the canvas and started looking at the model again, and then, you know, minutes passed, and then until he had 3 little marks. I assume it was the head and where the eyes were. And then he started with the eye, and, you know, started doodling, and he grew that entire painting from out the eye. And I was just amazed by it, because I if I would do that, because I think Tom Fluharty, he works that way, but he does it so that, you know, his proportions are a little off. He does that on purpose, but his proportions weren't off, and I just couldn't imagine how it's possible to grow a painting like that. It was really fascinating to
That's interesting. See. Well, I mean, in one way I can recognize that, because, like, for me, one of the ways that I work, I find myself just naturally doing this, like, is once I start getting into the groove, like a lot of times, like a sketch will be okay, you know, and I'm not one of these people that the sketch has to be perfect in order for me to paint. It's just basically, I know where I can take it to the next place.
Yeah, you use it.
Yeah. And so, but when I start getting into the painting part, I find myself looking more at shapes, and as long as I'm getting those shapes right, it just happens. So you can almost kind of start anywhere. And like, I do this one shape, and then there's this shape here, and then next to that shape is this shape, and I'm kind of just seeing everything in that way. So I can see.
But then you have set up the basic volumes of the portrait already, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm talking like, yeah, that's true. Like if you have it already sketched out, but like I can see though from that technique, if you got the eye just right, I can see how you can pull everything
that's what he did. It was constantly measuring. So
yeah, it's like a puzzle. Like you're doing like little puzzle pieces and stuff. Yeah. That's so cool though, man. I brought him up just because he's one of those, when we were saying, is there another sergeant? I don't think his work is, I think his work is his own. He's got a unique look, But I think he's one of those painters that just, man, he's one of those guys that, again, like I see his work and then it's just loses. I get lost in it. Some of his paintings, like there's some. First of all, I think he's one of those artists that uses green in the most amazing way. Like he does a lot with green. And there's this one, a few different paintings where he does birch trees. You know what those are, right? The white. Okay, the white.
Yeah.
But there's something about how he paints those birch trees. It's like I've never seen. It's like there's something about it where it's like they're like so. I don't even know how to explain it. The painting is so soft and so like.
No, yeah, and the rounded leaves. Are those what you mean? Those planes that all have just slightly different hues and value. Yeah. They're
so it's just gorgeous. Like the work and
his compositions and his use of color are so strong.
Yeah, I watched a demo once, and I it was amazing watching. But I remember the thing that right at the beginning, he has like 100 colors on his palette. There's like so, and I was just like, that's too many for me. Like I like to keep it real simple with just a few colors.
Well, but I remember thinking Ariba uses sometimes only 2 or 3.
Yep. Wow. So I mean that's another great thing about painting is that there's no rules really.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean I tended to disagree with that a little bit as far as like if it sucks then you
should have followed the rule.
Yeah. The only rule is don't suck, but because that question, like is there bad art? Yes, there's bad art. There's so much bad art, but I mean what I'm saying is to get to the point of creating a piece of art, you can literally do almost anything. Like I love seeing artists that work in oils do things that I haven't really tried, or that just draw, or like even Kruger. Watching Kruger, the way he works it's really interesting watching him. He's been sharing a lot of his processes, which is really cool that he's doing that, and it's cool seeing it in acrylic. And acrylic is just a bitch to work with. It's so it can be so annoying, but it's so cool seeing his approach, kind of doing like almost like a burnt sienna drawing, and then doing like a wash over it and pushing things back with a wash, which you can do in acrylic, and it's got a really cool effect. And it's starting to pull out some of the lights, and it's really a fun way to watch. But there's that way to do it, and then there's a whole other different approaches where and that's one thing when I was talking with Nathan Fox last week. The one thing I like about a lot of his work is he'll do like a crazy like bright yellow or orange or whatever underpainting, and then just pull everything through and like let that color break through in certain areas. But like that's the great thing about painting though, is that you can just do so much with it, and like you said earlier, you're the one that's doing it, right? So it doesn't matter what style you're in, it's still still gonna sing true to your mindset, how you would do it. And that's what makes it awesome.
You even if you try, you can never you can never actually do what someone else is doing. And if you get really close, then you're always a second-hand version of that person, because you can never get into their minds.
Were you ever an artist that like copied masters, like to try to learn how to copy one of their paintings?
Yeah, not recently, but I have absolutely done that to learn the craft. Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering. I've done it like maybe once or twice. Like I did a Rockwell once, but like I kind of find it, because you're into music as well.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's just for me personally, but like I was in lots of bands, and I would always get irritated when my bandmates would want to play a Nirvana song or like learn some other band song. And it's just kind of funny thinking about it now, because I'm like, that was probably actually a really good idea, because we'd be learning like different things about me. But for me, I would get so annoyed with them. Like, let's write our own music. Let's
Well,
write
I do know what you mean. And a lot of studies I pushed and did my own version of it. You may remember the Menem Axe of Sargent I copied, but I did a caricature of it. So I still get to learn from what he did, but try to turn it into my own thing.
Yeah. Well, see, that's awesome, though. I mean, that's but I mean, well, I guess that's what I was trying to say. Is I think it's a great thing, and I kind of look back now and think, man, I wish I would have maybe done a little bit more of that for myself personally, because I was always a little bit stubborn that way, where I just wanted to do my own thing and just figure it out, you know. And it, like, I remember when I was in art school briefly, they wanted us to like copy certain paintings, and I was just like, man, I just want to do my own painting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't even know why I brought that up. I was just thinking about it, just because I know that, like, for example,
well,
I know
things worked out for you though. So,
but I think though, like, it's important though. It is important to acknowledge, you know, the masters and the people that, or even like art, or even things that aren't good. You know what I mean? Because like, one thing that I find myself saying and thinking all the time is, it's, you know, you learn from how not to do things, you know, like you learn, you know, like, that didn't work for that guy.
Well, talking about watercolor, I think I must have thrown away hundreds of watercolors, you know, that didn't turn out. And it's, you know, that doesn't make me happy when I do a painting, but at the same time, all those failures, they teach me how not to do it. And it teaches you how that material works, what happens when you leave the water still wet and keep painting, or what happens when you let it dry first and then paint. All those little things, they help you to learn to understand how that material behaves.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it's all good things if you're open and willing to understand that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, and I think. I was thinking about that character session at Lightbox. Maybe because I think that video is available. Maybe you can add that to the notes of this video for people who haven't seen it. I think it could be interesting. I think that is an interesting thing also, because I used to be really nervous for these kinds of events, you know, where you have the best artist in the world. That's how they promote it, you know, and you're doing caricatures there with Tom Fluharty, with you, with people from Pixar, and I recently changed that and turned that around for myself, because I don't want to feel competition. I don't want to look at art that way, because it leads to nothing for me. Only a lot of stress. And it's never good enough, because who am I competing with, and what, you know, do I want it to do? Do I want to do a caricature like you, or like Tom Fluharty, you know, and or all these other people that are there? And there is no one way. And then there are so many artists who weren't even there, who are also amazing caricature artists. So I just went in there wanting to have fun, you know, and
it was cool.
And you know, I remember John Navarez, he had this talk, I think it was called Watch Me Fail, and I thought that was just a perfect title, you know, because I thought he can now draw anything, because if his drawing fails, it's the title is correct, you know, you can see him fail. But if he does a great drawing, then he failed at failing. So he's always right, you know. But I thought it was a good idea, because it took the pressure away, I think, or at least in my case, that would take pressure away, because, you know, you can't expect to do a great drawing, and then even what I may consider a failure, someone else may still like, or the other way around. You know, it's not about that. It's, if you look at more at the process over a longer period of time, that's much more interesting to look at, how you develop as an artist, and not each individual drawing, because you can't control the outcome. And if you're really concerned with the outcome, then your drawing will probably fail, because if you want it to become a perfect painting, then it's most likely not gonna be a great painting. And if you don't care that much, like phone doodles, they become a lot of times they become really nice because you don't care. You're just on the phone and doodling.
No, it was cool, man. The Lightbox thing was fun. I had a blast doing the character. My only thing with that is I felt like I was just starting to feel warmed up a little bit by the time we ended, because I was feeling it was a little bit strange because there were so many artists. So it was kind of hard to find a space, and there wasn't much space. And you realize you can't really draw the whole thing that you want to do, and so there's little things like that. And we had to work pretty quick, and like I thought it would have been a little bit, for me personally, I would have liked if we just maybe did 2 people and then we spent a little bit more time. But also there's a fun place to kind of just quickly do them too, because it's good to warm up. And but really overall it was just fun to be drawing with so many awesome artists, and like fun to see everybody's different perspectives. And but yeah, I remember just like I was starting to just kind of feel like I was feeling like so tired, and then by the time we got towards the last guy, I was like I'm starting to finally feel like let's keep going now, like let's but it was cool, man. And it was cool to be able to draw and paint with you, with Tom, with Steven and Court, and what's that one guy from Africa? He's a pretty cool guy. I can't think of his name right now. I sent him a message, a B or something. Yeah, I'm blanking, but he's a pretty talented dude. And of course, like drawing with artists from Pixar that I just love. I have so much respect for Pixar. Speaking of, real quick, we got to go pretty soon. I have to get back working on my deadline. But and you got to go to bed, young man, because it's late where you are, right?
Oh, it's still bright and sunny here.
Oh, okay. But real quick before we end this, could you share a little bit? I'm just curious too, just about the direction you're going with your character design work and what you're going towards. Like, are you working on any big projects right now that you can talk about, or just like I'm just curious about how that's going for you?
Well, at the moment, I'm taking a little break. I was on a project actually working with Carter Goodrich, which was really nice, and he is such a not only such a great artist, but also such a great human being. And we had such great conversation. He really helped me. But I left that project and I took some time off, and not really with a plan. And I started doing paintings such as this one. But I thought Lightbox came and we did the caricatures, and I thought, I love caricatures too. And then I started to draw some characters, and I thought, I love that too. And today I have this little story I'm working on, and I'm creating a bead board to, I don't know, it may develop into a short maybe, but that's basically what I'm working on right now. It's this project that I work on for a bit, and then I leave it for a while, and it goes like that. But basically, I'm taking some time off to do whatever I want. That's where I am right now.
Okay, cool. That's awesome, man. But like, I think it's cool that you're.
I never did that in my entire career. I was always, looking for the next job, so afraid that people might forget about me or that I wouldn't get hired anymore, and to the point where it wasn't really healthy anymore. So I thought, well, I'll take some time off and just enjoy life and my family and painting, and so that's where
awesome,
I'm right.
And how has it been, by the way, in the Netherlands throughout all this craziness going on? Like, are you guys on any kind of lockdown, or is it more open?
We were at the moment. Kids are back to school, and I wouldn't say we're back to normal, but more normal than we were. But at the same time, we see people getting sick again. So I it wouldn't surprise me if we would go back. I don't know if it would be an entire lockdown, but a situation that is a little more strict than we have right now.
Oh, okay.
What's it like where you are right now?
Crazy. Like it's, dude.
Can you just go out or?
Yeah. I mean, of course we have to wear a mask everywhere, which is fine. It's actually better than what it was. Like, it's been this has been the worst year ever. I think for sure. But like, there's been a lot going on in Chicago. Like, we've had a lot of riots and a lot of, a lot of not so good things have come along because of that. So it's felt pretty unsafe here. Like, we live in a pretty nice neighborhood, but during some of the riots, we've heard lots of gunshots, sirens, and so it's kind of nerve-wracking when you have little kids here and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's been the worst part about it. But as far as like the whole virus thing, like, we pretty much stay to ourselves, and there's nothing really open here. I mean, except for like grocery stores, and they've done some outdoor seating restaurants. But we haven't gone out anywhere.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we do get to go to restaurants, and even I went to the movie theater last week. So
oh wow.
I don't
think we have that yet. I don't think that's open.
Okay, yeah.
It could be. I mean, I could be wrong, but they've been doing. I don't know if here they've been streaming brand new movies. Instead of going to the movie theater, like, you can pay like $20 to rent a movie that's supposed to be at the movie theater. But it's been weird. But I kind of find.
Well, this was actually funny because it was on the roof of the movie theater.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So everyone's still spread. Yeah, no, I've got like, I'm itching to do comedy stuff again, but like, that's not happening.
No.
But like, big comics are doing comedy again, but like outdoor shows where people sit in their cars and stuff. And so so there's some things going on with comedy and different things, but for the most part it's pretty much just like, we're pretty much locked down. Like, my oldest daughter, she's a junior this year in high school, and she's in her room doing homework all day. Like, it's all at home.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So but you know what, if it was ever going to happen, it's the perfect time. If this happened like 5-6 years ago, I don't know if kids would be able to do school from home. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I try to be positive about it.
Yeah.
I did take my daughter's mini golfing the other night, which was really fun. But we all had to wear masks, and we had to like make sure we spaced the groupings and stuff. But it was fun, and I think it's good to, especially with your kids at this time, to kind of get out there and show them that things are still, we can still have fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, but for me, I'm just hoping for the best, and of course I think everybody is, but I think as artists, we are kind of already used to just being in our studio all the time, or at least I am. So to me, it's not been that strange.
Yeah.
I'm already with my family all the time anyway. So it's just weird to not be able to go anywhere but a grocery store.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm glad that you guys seem to be doing well and safe and everything. And it was so much fun hanging out, like doing the Lightbox thing. And if anybody hasn't, I think a lot of the videos are available on YouTube from a lot of the artists. I did a demo. You and Tom did a thing that's really cool. I watched most of it. It was really awesome. And it was funny, by the way, that it was the same dude that I painted.
The day before, you posted a caricature of the same guy we were portraying in our demo the next day.
Yeah, that was kind of trippy. I painted him for the Schools and Workshop House. I went there. I did it twice or 3 times, but so that was a demo I did in front of them on value painting, and so I felt like just sharing a piece of art, and so it was really funny. Like, you sent me that message, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's funny because we all drew him did a completely different kind of approach. It was interesting to see that. It's pretty cool. So, but yeah, if anybody wants to check out, I'm gonna try to leave a maybe I can leave a link for all those in this. But yeah, definitely check those out. And thanks again for hanging out with me, man. This has been fun to just shoot the shit, talk art. Yeah, man. Yes. I like this. I like these kind of conversations where we can just talk about art and life and whatever and just have fun. And I can't wait to see what you do with the character design stuff, man, because your stuff is awesome. And it makes me laugh. Like I love
thank you.
I love that there's one character design piece that you did of the people on the phones, but just the way that they're bent over and they have like this awesome silhouette. There's so much character just in that personality, and it's like, I could see that in an animation where everybody is just doing like walking, no one's paying attention to each other. So anyway,
it's funny that you find that funny. It was my attempt to be really evil, to really try to get at people being on their phone all the time, but still it's funny. I think it's something I have to accept. That's what comes out when I try something.
No, it was great, man. Like it's a really funny piece, but anyways, thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. And this is the second time you joined me on the podcast. Oh, and real quick before we go, promote what you got going on, because I know you do like some kind of an art podcast as well. Is that something that you can direct people towards as well?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube channel. It's called Art Talk, but I do it irregularly, so I will announce it whenever I do another one.
Okay.
And then there's the Schoolism course, and then basically that's it at the moment. And my Instagram, obviously.
Yeah.
So
cool. All right, man. Well, thanks again. It was awesome talking to you.
Yeah.
And until next time, man.
You too. Yeah, and good luck with the caricature job.
Oh, thanks, man. I'll send you a sneak peek.
Okay, cool.
All right, see you, man.
See you. Bye-bye.
You want answers? Truth.